This is the Umbrella Academy on TV Podcast Industries, and we're discussing the Umbrella Academy Season 4, Episode 3, The Squid and the Girl.
As you can see, many questions remain. What is the cleanse? Who is this little girl? Where did she come from? And where will she go from here?
Welcome back, fellow Academy alumni and Brawly Dollies. This is TV Podcast Industries, and we're discussing the Umbrella Academy Season 4, Episode 3, The Squid and the Girl. And no, that's not the title of Ben's sex tape. I am one of your hosts, Chris.
I'm your other host, Derek. Welcome back.
Yes. The Squid and the Girl. I kind of like that. It's like, yeah, it's an interesting version. We are at the halfway point on the season, the final season of the Umbrella Academy.
You know, it's really funny, isn't it? Like we come from UK TV, obviously, Chris and myself, and it's so interesting that we keep talking about how short this season is, and it's awful they've only got 6 episodes. This was our entire growing up experience with sci-fi shows in the UK and Ireland that only lasted 6 episodes a season, and then they go away for a whole year and come back with 6 more episodes. You know, that was our whole experience. But here we are, halfway point for this season of the final season of the Umbrella Academy.
Yeah. Do you remember how bad it was when they did Sherlock? And it was like 2 episodes a year?
Yeah.
Maybe even 1 a year? And you're like, okay, it's an hour and a half, but oh my God, we have to wait another 12 months for just to see Benedict Cumberbatch do Sherlock again. Yeah. And we'll never see it now because him and Martin are marveled up.
Well, they can't align their schedules at all, unfortunately. I did start rewatching Sherlock last week, actually, Chris. It's amazing that you brought that up. I started rewatching it. It's such a good show.
It's so
absolutely
good.
Loved it.
So you're Sherlocked.
I am.
In on Umbrella Academy Episode 3.
That too, Chris.
Yes. Hello, Umbrella Academy alumni. We are going to discuss this episode in pure spoiler-filled approaches. Mm-hmm. So, if you haven't watched it, make sure you just pop on over.
I'm sure you've watched all 6 episodes of the show so far. We're the ones that are behind, right, Chris?
Yes, we are. But that is the thing. We are watching them episode by episode, podcast, and then podcasting because we want to get into the nitty-gritty, the minutiae that has been pulled together of this.
Yeah.
So, if you want to join us, don't forget to head on over to tvpodcastindustries.com. Subscribe because we know you want to, but also head on over to facebook.com/groups/TV Podcast Industries and leave us your thoughts for each and every episode so that we can read them out and also kind of basically discuss your thoughts too. If you don't want to head over to Facebook, don't worry, we understand it. You can also just send us your thoughts via email to feedback@tvpodcastindustries.com.
Absolutely. Yeah, we always kind of talk about the fact that that Netflix drops all these episodes in one go, and it's really difficult to cover a Netflix show because they're dropped in one go and everybody watches them and then disappears. Because it's the last season of Umbrella Academy, we really wanted to give it its due. We wanted to talk about each episode as we went and give it the time that they deserve, because we've loved these characters for 4 seasons. What's it, 6 years now since we started covering the Umbrella Academy, or 5 years since we started covering the Umbrella Academy. So we want to make sure that we give it its time as we talk about each episode of the show as well. So delighted to have you all on board with us, of course, and loving your feedback so far. It's interesting because I've seen feedback about the last episode. Everybody has sent in all their feedback about the last episode. So as Chris said, we'd love to hear your episode by episode thoughts as we go as well. So keep sending them in to us.
Yeah. And you may notice we are missing a third voice.
We are.
Unfortunately, our third podcast host is still stuck in another dimension, another timeline. He may join us towards the end. We don't know. Time will tell. As literally they say, who knows the future? No one.
Yeah.
But if it's written in the stars, it's just us. It's written in the stars. But we will hold out hope. We'll have him towards the finale. Otherwise, we will just enjoy our dulcet tones.
Yes. Yes. As it stands right now, I'll be honest. I don't think John's going to be back up podcasting for at least another week or so, which does impact our next podcast. We are looking to cover Lord of the Rings, Rings of Power, one of John's favourite universes of TV shows. Lord of the Rings coming out with its next season this week in a couple of days' time. We have seen the episodes, but I'm not sure if John's going to be able to podcast about them until a bit later on in the season. But as that show's going weekly, it means it does give us the ability to catch up with the episodes as they go on. So we may not start at exactly the starting point of Lord of the Rings, but we will hopefully be able to catch up with it as the season goes on.
Yes, and unfortunately, I did offer to sub in, but my discussion points of having not seen season 1 at all, and rarely parts and not remembering any of the films, I'd be like, so big ear elf over there got really annoyed at that dwarfy person who versus actually is jumping around with Lenny Henry, is that right? Oh, and the eye in the sky is actually a DC no, okay, so that's not Olmec. Okay, cool.
Yeah, unsurprisingly, I said no to the very kind offer of Chris to sub in. But I will say, and I can say it now because the embargo has lifted on the on season 2 of Rings of Power. Go check it out. Ooh, it's well worth it. Season 1 was set up, which we always knew it was going to be, establishing that world. But season 2 is really, really enjoyable so far. Go check it out. I love
how you have to say they have to set up the world of Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, absolutely. This is hundreds of years before the universe that we've seen in The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings. So they had to establish where we are, what that world was all about in the first season. And there was some awesome episodes the first season. I wouldn't tell you to skip that either, but go check out season 1 and season 2 of Rings of Power. Season 2 starts off very, very well. Very impressed with it so far.
Excellent stuff. But we're not here to talk about Rings of Power. We are here to talk about Netflix's Umbrella Academy.
Yes, we are.
So, Derek, without further much ado, let us dive into season 4, episode 3 of Umbrella Academy, The Squid and the Girl. Do you want to give us the episode details?
Yes, absolutely. The show, of course, was created for television by Steve Blackman and developed by Jeremy Slater, based on the comic books by Gerard Way and Gabriel Ba. This episode was directed by Paco Cabezas. He directed episodes 7 and 8 of season 3 and directs 3, 4, and 6 of the 6-episode season. So, the director who's had most to do with the final season of Umbrella Academy. Previously directed 4 episodes of Penny Dreadful and 2 episodes of the sequel series Penny Dreadful, City of Angels, both of which we covered here on TV Podcast Industries as well. So, yeah, it was, wasn't it? Yeah.
Such a good City of Angels was that was the one I was like, oh, I really wish we had it. That's one I'm sad we never got more of.
Yeah, we got one season which set up a great second season, which never came to pass, unfortunately. Yeah. But this episode was written by Erin Michelle Williams and Elizabeth Padden. Erin has been a staff writer on the show since season 2 of the Umbrella Academy and wrote 2 episodes of season 3 as well. And this is Elizabeth's second episode of Umbrella Academy. As we mentioned before, lots of returning writers for the show, the writer's room and the staff writers all pretty much staying involved all the way throughout the seasons of this show.
Great stuff.
And with that said, Chris, do you want to give us the summary for Umbrella Academy Season 4, Episode 3, The Squid and the Girl?
Sure. In October 2006, fishermen caught a giant squid off the coast of the US with a young girl trapped inside. When asked what happened, the young girl responded with 2 words, the cleanse. Shortly after, Reginald built a town in Maine for the young girl, Jennifer, to live a normal life, yet stay protected. In the present day, Ben's body is changed after colliding with the now grown Jennifer during her kidnapping by the doctors Jean and Jean Thibodeau. Klaus gets his drug dealer Quinn to kill him, but after he discovers Klaus's immortality, he kidnaps him with a plan for Klaus to pay back his debts. 5, Diego and Lila go to the Keeper's HQ. 5 reveals to Lila that his powers now allow him to navigate between timelines via subway station to the same place, but in a different timeline. He has no control over where they travel to, and when they find themselves in 5's original apocalypse, he quickly returns them to Diego. Diego finds files from the original timeline, which lists Ben's cause of death as the Jennifer incident, a mission from the Umbrella Academy's past that none of the family can quite remember. Alison, Victor and Luther go to the Hargreaves Manor, where they meet Abigail and Reginald. When Diego, 5 and Lila arrive, they realize that the original Reginald Hargreaves erased their memories of how Ben died, and upon reuniting, they attempt to restore their memory. Meanwhile, Jean and Jean show Jennifer mementos of the original timeline, as well as the giant squid they found her in. They reveal she is the key to destroying all timelines and restoring the original one. On his own solo quest, Ben is told by Cy Grossman to use the wounds he got from Jennifer and listen to his body to find her. He arrives at Jean and Jean's hideout and unleashes his inner horror to free Jennifer, all the while unaware that the Thibodeaux intentionally let them escape to carry out their plan.
Yes, the Thibodeaux being really central here. We start off the episode with effectively a kind of start to the cleanse, and we end off the episode leading into the cleanse. And I believe episode 4 is called The Cleanse, so I guess we're going to go full circle over the course of these 2 episodes, yeah.
I think so. But I think we need to jump into it because there's a lot to discuss
There's some fun stuff to discuss in this episode. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
We talk about our big moments, the big things that stood out to us in the episode overall. So Chris, where do you want to start? What's your big moment from the episode? The thing that you want to talk about most?
So I want to discuss Jennifer, Jean, and the horror. Or as I like to call it, Jen, Jean, and the horror.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't find
Jean, Ben.
It could have been, yeah. That's probably a better way.
Mm-hmm.
Let's get in there, because this is interesting. The amount of OG artifacts that Jean and Jean have on site.
Absolutely.
From the Umbrella Factory, going through that, the overall warehouse, I would say, the barn of the artifacts, and looking in the background, there's definitely stuff I was like, oh, I remember that, or I know that from season 2 or season 1, or all those little nice Easter eggs. And I really enjoyed that. I also enjoyed this flashback to the squid, really just adding additional confusion for me. I was really trying to understand why a little girl was in a squid. I'm sure lots of other people were too.
Absolutely.
But yeah.
Do you know what I loved about that opening scene, though? How sweary the coverage was on the TV. It really made me laugh. So it's 1995. We were alive in 1995. We saw news reports that were going on. But this is true live TV when the reporter is out talking to these two fishermen who've captured the biggest squid of all time, and possibly worldwide is what they're saying. But it's a fun chat. But I love how sweary it gets on live TV. They start out by saying, we just thought it was effing huge. That's as she's talking to them. But even the reporter gets into it as she goes along, realizing this is like a massive moment. We know now, live reports are usually 2 or 3 second delayed live reports, so they catch people and news reporters who may get a bit difficult on air, right? Exactly. But yeah, this is one of the fun parts about it. But yes, inside the massive squid, we find Jennifer hidden inside, and she's saying that the reason why she's there is the cleanse. That's what happened. So very interesting.
Yeah. I'm wondering if it is also going to end up being some timey-wimey type of thing where literally they're going to take it all the way back and somehow someone a little girl falls into it, and then that's actually the cleanse. You could do some weird, wacky stuff, which I know they would. Yeah. I like that this is setting up something completely off the wall. Well, yeah. It is.
Or at the very least, it's setting up an explanation for something that we've heard about since season 1, the Jennifer incident, the death of Ben, right? So back in 2006, that's when Ben died. That's the mission that they were on. So that kind of full circle moment that we're finally getting an explanation for what happened on that mission.
We didn't know it was called the Jennifer thing back in the day. So we just knew that Ben died on a mission. And then that's it is fun to see how they are expanding upon this. So pulling in lore, my assumption is they would probably or have probably discussed this with Jared and Gabriel.
I'm sure.
It's going to go, hey, is this good? Because this does start to rewrite the overall universe that is the Umbrella Academy. But I would argue now, I think we already argued ourselves about it, that this very much, the Umbrella Academy Netflix is very much their own thing now. They have surpassed by a long amount the comic books, the OG material.
Yes. For our wonderful fellow Umbrella Academy alumni, myself and Chris do talk off air outside of the podcast.
No,
as
we
well.
don't.
And,
don't break the illusion.
The discussion that we had was, I'm not a big fan of the comic books that were created. They're fine. They're grand. I can kind of see why they were out there, mostly because of the extraordinary star power that comes with Gerard Way to get them created in the story that he wanted to tell. But I do think the TV show has done a better job of telling the story with these characters, and gone far beyond it. The drama that's there on TV, on Netflix, is much better than as written in the books. And I think at this stage, they have created a story, and now they want to close out the story of the characters that have been created for the Netflix show. They really don't bear a huge amount of resemblance at this stage to the original counterparts that were in the comic book. That's a personal opinion, of course, but that's how we've discussed it afterwards. So they're not taking a storyline from the comic books, as you've mentioned, Chris. You've read all of them. This isn't a storyline that's in the comic books. They're taking a storyline from the show and expanding on it to close out the show. Yeah, right.
Exactly, and it's very much as almost we all understand multiverse now. It is ingrained into pop culture. You could almost think of the comic books being their own universe. That's their own universe, their own timeline, their own thing.
Yeah.
The Netflix show is its own version. And I enjoy this because you also, like, Jean and Jean are their own characters. And we get that beautiful, crazy scene between Jean and Jen. When they act as like those homely... I don't even know how to say it. It's that that almost granny grandpa, like, folksy Midwest kind of friendliness. And you're like, oh, that just seems so weird.
Well, it's, I suppose the fact that they kidnapped Jennifer last week and we didn't know the intentions of Jean and Jean up until this week. They want to get to the cleanse. They know who Jennifer is and they want to get there. She's the key to it. But to see her waking up in the house and being brought freshly dried clothes and breakfast, but they do get the dance sequence of this season, I guess. They have their moment where they're dancing to Cher in full choreographed dance, right, in this episode, which is something that has been a true hallmark of the TV version of the Umbrella Academy. But their dances to Cher's Gypsies, Tramps and Thieves, an excellent song. Always loved that. Got a good style about it. So having them do their choreographed dance to that. But you're right, Chris. It's just, you don't know who these characters are. You don't know where they come from. And they seem very ornery, very nice, kind people, just trying to get Jennifer to solve this big issue that they've discovered, the timelines that don't match, the possibility that she could be the one that will collapse the timelines and bring it back to what they believe to be their real timeline. They are very interesting. They talk about them being in community college, don't they? And they got fired from tenure in community college. Yet in their real timelines, they believe one of them worked in Harvard and another worked in another massive Ivy League university, and they believe that's their real timeline. So again, some interesting indications of where they come from and where they think they should be wanting to get back to. They don't feel like the evil characters trying to enact their evil plan. They feel like two people who've been lost into terrible timelines going for, again, tenure in Ivy League colleges to small community universities.
And yet we do know that they are incredibly violent.
Yes, they can be.
We saw them in the first outing where they shot the other Umbrella Effect Memento Gatherer blood.
Well, he was trying to rip them off for €10,000 for a VHS, or $10,000 for a VHS. That's a lot of money for a VHS tape.
I've seen weirder things for VHSs. But yeah, no, I think this is setting up, again, like, they're setting up some really interesting kind of pieces here, both with the characters, the Jen and Ben storyline, and then just what the cleanse could be. Yeah. And I think we started to, I kind of posited a few things last episode. I think we're starting to get some ideas, but we'll probably see more in the next episode, of course, in terms of what it really is. But I think outside of Jen, Jean, and Jean, seeing Ben go full horror.
Yeah.
Like, go almost like being drawn like an animalistic rage and tranced rage with full tentacles kind of swinging tree to tree level stuff here. It's like Tarzan, but like evil.
Yeah. I think it was really cool, wasn't it? Like he met up with Cy Grossman, who was able to track him. David Cross, who we mentioned how awesome he is last episode. But as Ben goes off on his own solo mission, meets up with Cy Grossman tells him to listen to his body, and that will find his way to Jennifer. His version of listen to his body is not just the connection that he made with Jennifer, that burn mark, that's the pulsating burn mark that's on his arm. It's also, it looks like he's able to control that power of, as you call him from the comic books, the horror, the tentacled monster that's inside Ben. That cool moment where he walks in on the tentacles rather than walking in on the legs. It feels like something out of a horror movie. But in the background, as you're seeing in the flashing of lightning and the darkness that's there and the flashes that are going on of gunfire towards the horror, you're seeing him rip apart the bodies of Jean and Jean's security guards that are at their home. It looks cool. It's really awesome. The fight sequences in this show have always been real standouts. I wish we'd been able to see a bit more of this moment with the horror, with Ben ripping people apart, because he is definitely up there with the rest of the Umbrella Academy in terms of his power, right? But we see just moments of it. We just see flashes of it in the background in this moment. Yeah, it's cool though.
My assumption was just this was a money decision because it's a lot
possibly
of CGI to make Ben be up and the way he is.
Like we did talk about it last week that, we haven't seen Pogo at all so far this season, and we do have the things that are revealed that Jean and Jean have from other universes. There's a little statue of Pogo that we see in there, and I'm going, well, statue's really easy to put on screen rather than a CGI version of a talking monkey, right? Yeah. So there we go. So, that's our Pogo for the season, Chris.
That's the max we'll get. But overall, look, so I just enjoy this. I enjoy Jean. I enjoyed Jennifer's reaction to the lamb and milk. And then I enjoy Ben and being that pulled, feeling that call being kind of discussed by Cy, and like it all just kind of starting to coalesce. The storyline of the cleanse, the storyline of Jennifer, storyline of Ben.
Yeah.
And at the very point, we're going to have to get Bennifer being named. Like, it's going to happen. It's just when. Because,
well, if it's not around the real world,
yep,
might as well be around in the Umbrella Academy, huh?
Exactly. But yeah, that's my big point for this episode.
Excellent
what
stuff.
About yourself?
Excellent stuff. My big point is about Diego 5 and Leela's very successful mission, really. Going off to the Keeper's headquarters, which we saw in the previous episode, where Lila and 5 had been investigating the Keepers undercover behind Diego's back. I love how it all comes out really early in the episode, that's what's happened. Really early, they're kind of going, who are these guys, Jean and Jean? And 5 just goes, all right, exposition dump time. This is what happened previously on Umbrella Academy that you weren't aware of, Diego. And then in the car on the way there, Diego finds out that his thoughts that Lila could be cheating on him with the Greek guy with the mustache, that obviously turns out to be wrong. That's 5 undercover. So all of that's pieced together on the way to their mission. But Diego tries to prove himself, which is always good. Diego has been such a great character over the course of the last few seasons, and now he feels beaten down and suburban in this life that he'd been in. But we see him here really using all of his skills and being the one to find the resolution to what they're looking for, find at least some information. 5 and Lila actually don't do anything on this mission. It's Diego that finds all the information that's been hidden, all the information that doesn't arrive in the rubbish bins, the bits that were left behind by Jean and Jean. He's the one that works all that out and pieces the story together, while Five and Leela go off on their little sojourn into the alternate timelines through the subway system that they still both don't understand. So it's left to Diego, and it just feels like Diego stands up, becomes himself again, becomes the character that we've known and loved for 3 seasons, and is able to do the investigations, able to show how useful he is. And I kind of love that as he pieces it all together and sits down in front of Five and Leela, he goes, I bet you really regret not giving him my CV to the CIA, right? As he pieces it all together, since they didn't do anything, since they didn't learn anything on behalf of the investigation of It's the Keepers. I thought that was really good. But there's also the side story of what happens with Five and Leela, right? So we've talked about the powers of the characters and how they've changed. We learned that Five travels into this subway system that connects all the timelines in the last couple of episodes. Lila, is she able to control his powers still? It seems like she is. She grabs onto Five's arm and makes him do that jump. When he didn't want to, right?
It's more, I took that she's able to mimic. That was what was her thing, which was kind of mimic.
That was her old power, yeah. And we learned that she has this new power of shooting lasers out of her eyeballs, but it seems like she's still able to mimic and push
I think she
Five into doing it, yeah. Interesting. I wonder whether that was a writer's issue or they just went, nobody will mind.
Yeah, I think it's nobody will mind because, his power has changed that he can teleport, but he can only teleport to the subway station. He can use the subway station to go to wherever he left from teleporting in another timeline.
Yeah.
So that's interesting. Hers is now she can mimic the other people's power and kind of like you say, kind of use that to say teleport. But she also has Cyclops level eyes and laser beams. Yeah. So I'm wondering if there's more to Five's power as well now at a certain point.
Yeah. Yeah, and there was an interesting moment within that as well, where they take the subway system, I guess, within these timelines to his apocalypse, to the apocalypse that we saw back in season 1, where Five had stayed for 40 years, wasn't it? Where he jumped to by mistake and had been stuck there for 40 years. So we see the alternate version of Five shooting from battlements at the appearance of R5 and Leela arriving in his apocalypse, where he'd been alone for 4 years with his mannequin. And that's the only thing that's been keeping him company for a few years. That and his gun, I guess.
His gun and his wife.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was always a fun storyline. He was married to a mannequin.
He was. But I really liked this. I really liked Diego being able to stand up and be himself. You know, we're not going to have the same level of character depth that we've had in the previous seasons because we only have 6 episodes out of 10. You know, we're not going to have that. So having a moment here with Diego being able to stand up and show all of his abilities to his family and go, look how useful I am. You know, I'm a really important member of this team. I'm able to find out all the information that you wouldn't be able to find out. And the information that he finds out is that the Jennifer incident is what killed Ben. This connection here that we have to the cleanse, as the Jean and Jean are calling it, that is what killed Ben in the past. So something that we would never have found out otherwise, right?
Yeah, he's Batman. Like, we joked about it last episode. He is still Batman. He is still, like, that's what he was before all of this happened, before the whole of season 1 kicked off. So, he is good at his job, or what was his job. So, you're right. It's good to see him exercise that again, because I feel like he's somewhat of a butt of a joke sometimes.
Sometimes,
like, that's fine. They all are.
Yes.
Like Luther, 100%. Luther was the leader, but Luther then becomes literally the butt of many jokes throughout the seasons.
And does use that butt to a lot of his advantage as a professional dancer, Chris.
Exactly. Yeah. He's got to shake that money maker. That was good. Well done. But I'm in agreement with you. I think this was a good use of their the time together across the three of them.
Absolutely.
And I do want to know more about the Jennifer incident. And I think that's where seeing them all go to Reginald Hargreaves, meeting Hargreaves' wife.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. We get a bit of time on screen with Reginald Hargreaves' wife, who we hadn't seen much. We kind of seen her, that she was being protected on the moon by Luther, which we learnt in, I think, the second season. It took all the way, at least all the way through the first season, to learn why he was on the moon. But actually finally seeing her on screen and finally getting some interaction with the kids, it's really good. Yeah.
Yeah. So then the decision is, Reginald, of the OG Reginald, probably kind of block their memories, and let's figure this out. Let's find out what the Jennifer incident is. And it's a good place to end, because it does give us that right setup, which is, how did Ben die? Let's give us that information, and let's find out more about how Jennifer was involved in the OG timeline, because that is going to give us some information going into the next episode and beyond.
Yeah, again, we've talked about the Netflixness of the Umbrella Academy in the past. Yeah. This is the absolutely perfect Netflixness, isn't it?
Yeah.
All of them sit into their seats and it just goes to credits. You've only got to wait 3 seconds to find out what happens next.
Or in our case, however long this podcast recording takes, plus some more.
Exactly. Plus that 45 minutes to watch it, right?
Exactly.
Excellent. Anything else from the episode that we haven't talked about, Chris?
No, again, just the Easter eggs in the barn with Jean's barn and the Keeper's HQ. That was cool. I really know I haven't gone deep in it, but if you go on X or Instagram, there is kind of stills of people going, this is from this part and this is from here, and people have gone deep on it.
Absolutely.
That's very cool.
It was really cool. We saw things like the violin that Vanya was playing back in season 1 that calls the original Apocalypse when she was playing it. It's there. We see Diego's weapons are in there. We saw the statue of Pogo was in there. It was really cool.
Of the actual Umbrella Academy as kids. Those types
exactly. So, really, really enjoyed seeing those little touches in there, but we're not going to call out all of the Easter eggs. That's for websites to do, right?
Go to Den of Geek or any of those. Get you sorted.
Yeah, but didn't we see the mask of Cha-Cha? Mary J. Blige's character from the first season was in that box back in episode 1 that they got that had the marigold in it. So there's loads and loads of things. It's almost like they went, "This is our final season. Let's get all the props from the last 3 seasons, bring them in, and use them as little touch points for all the fans."
Again, they didn't have to make new ones.
Which I kind of love, to be honest. I mean, I'm a big fan of shows like Doctor Who, where they do that, where they pick things out from the 60s or 70s or 80s and put them in as little Easter eggs in the background of those characters. So why not do it on Umbrella Academy in your final season?
100%. Huh? I'm messing, but I enjoy it. I'm the guy that just watched Despicable Me 4 and looking at all the other Despicable Me's and or Sing or things like that, where you can see Gru and the minions in different properties and vice versa. They do that too. And it's the same with, that's Illumination, but when you have DreamWorks, they do their version of that. Pixar do, here's Monsters, Inc. in X, or here's, Stitch in Y. So I enjoy those stuff.
I love that you're going so early on this, Chris. I thought you'd be waiting until Miles was at least 5 or 6 to be going deep into the Easter egg lore of animated movies. I thought you'd just be going into all the horror movies that you could watch now. Since he's so young, he wouldn't retain.
See, I thought that, but then I remember watching it when I was 6, so that's problematic.
Right.
Yes.
That's problematic.
Yeah.
But do it now before Miles gets older.
What about yourself? Any notes from your side?
What I want to talk about really is Klaus, because we haven't talked about him here. But the end of last episode was Klaus being brought back alive by effectively Allison, but really the whole team. Allison was the one that did it, but Klaus goes wild on the whole team, but specifically Allison. That the relationship that they've had for years is she's been the one that's effectively been holding his hair back when he throws up after his binge drinking or him going completely off the rail. But he takes it out on her and every other member of the team. except Lila, which I really liked. When he's, what's it when he's going through the team, he goes, daddy issues, mommy issues, definitely more daddy issues. And then you seem very well adjusted, actually, to Lila, which I really enjoyed. But then he goes off, back to old Klaus, instantly, which is really sad. He spent 3 years, dealing with the repercussions of how far he went in the past, the sex and drugs and everything else that he did, the cult leadership that he did in the past. But he goes completely off the deep end immediately. He goes back to Allison's home while Claire's out to basically steal anything that isn't nailed down. Claire confronts him before he leaves, which I thought was a really good scene. Claire knowing that he's an addict, knowing that he needs somebody to intervene before he goes back to his old self, but unable to persuade her Uncle Klaus to give up this path that he's going to go down. And then we see a bit more of it later on when he meets up with Quinn, who was a member of the biker gang from last season or season 2, the Mothers of Agony, that Pogo is a member of. So it's interesting that they're bringing him back into the season, but a really kind of odd moment where Klaus, after effectively learning how to float in front of him, I've never seen Klaus have that power before. He's able to float in the air. He encourages Quinn to shoot him in the head and kill him. I don't know why he just does that. Is he just trying to prove that he doesn't have any fear of death again? Is that what he's trying to do? I don't know. I don't know why he encouraged Quinn to do it. And it's revealed later on that once Quinn finds this out, he goes, oh, hang on a second, I have a use for you, Klaus. Brings him, captures him, brings him home to their lair and hangs him upside down. A great line from Robert Sheehan there, though, with "Don't leave me hanging," which is really good. Enjoyed that. But yeah, so Klaus again back on his death wish, very quickly again.
Back to old Klaus, back to season 1.
Yeah,
I found it like you made the joke about he tried to grab anything that wasn't nailed down. He still grabbed the TV that was nailed down.
It certainly was.
He ripped it off the wall. I enjoyed this because it gets you back to Robert Sheehan doing what Robert Sheehan does best with the character of Klaus. I will say my issue, quote unquote, like bunny ears, is it just, he goes from 0 to 100. Like, it's just
absolutely
so quick. There is a bit of like character level whiplash that I get.
Yeah.
I understand, again, they're on a timeline here. No.
Yeah, a very short timeline.
No pun intended. But I think it just was so quick. That was the bit. To get him back to Junkie, like, you could have just had at least given us a 30-second scene with him in the bar, having like a shot or a drink for the first time, or just something to get you straight back to Junkie Klaus.
Because it was like literally, I'm back alive now. Taxi, right? Off I go. Off I go to Claire's house to Allison's house to rob everything off that isn't nailed down. Yeah, it's you don't see any of it, and even Claire says to him, "You don't seem like you're in a very good place here, and I don't think a beer is going to make this any better at all for you. I don't think there's going to be any alcohol that will sort this out for you. You seem to be in a bad place, But you're right. It does seem like things that are written to expedite the story rather than things that would make Klaus go over the edge. It just seems like he goes, right, well, now I'm back. Yeah. I can't die, so off I go to put myself to the test.
And he will try.
And he will try. He will try. But overall, Chris, what did you think of episode 3 of season 4 of Umbrella Academy?
I enjoyed it. Again, learning more and more about the keepers, the powers. But again, for me, this is the storyline. What is the cleanse? What will it be? What is this weird animalistic attraction craziness between Ben and Jen? When will they officially call them Bennifer or Jen? That doesn't work as much. But for me, it's just finding out what's happening. And again, the characters are the characters. Again, just spending time with this family is always fun. This it moved the story along for a lot of characters, for some at the right pace, and for others, as I won't get back into it, just at a whiplash pace. but it sets us up in a good place for episode 4 to kind of really go deep on what is happening, what happened, and what's next. So overall, still really enjoyed it and looking to get further in. What about yourself?
Yeah, I really enjoyed this. This seemed like it was at a massive pace, considering what we've had in previous seasons of the show, where this kind of story will be spread over a few episodes. This was going fast, and I think the big reveal of the episode is in a dropped line from Gene and Jean. When they're talking to Jennifer, they kind of look at her for the first time and they go, "We have so many questions about the cleanse. Tell us about the cleanse." And then the next time you see them, they go, "So what you're supposed to be doing is destroying all of the timelines and restoring the original timeline. Isn't that right, Jennifer?" And you're going, "Oh, okay, that's the cleanse, I guess. That's the big crux this whole thing is based on for the season." So you've just told us it all in one episode, and it's gone from, here's the family without powers, here's the family with powers, here's the setup for the season, and it all went by in a click of fingers. And we've got 3 episodes left. So I think it has told us everything we need to know to get us to how's the season going to end, right? They've got to stop the cleanse from happening, because that will kill everybody in this timeline, or they've got to go with the cleanse and go back to just the original timeline. That's the choice that they have to make between now and the end of the season. It was great to see the family interact all together, and great to see them back with Reggie, but with the addition of Abigail, Reggie's wife, it was kind of cool to have that interaction rather than them once again just having Reggie being the alien amongst them all, telling them, "All my decisions are the right decisions and all you kids are terrible at your jobs." That was kind of a nice addition to the show. So hopefully we get a bit more of Abigail interaction as the rest of the series goes on. She's a nice addition to the show. You can kind of understand how she balanced Reggie out, and when she wasn't around, she was the one. That's why he's been so unhinged, I guess, for the last few seasons. So that was quite nice. And yeah, we got our dance sequence in this episode, with Gene and Jean doing Gypsies, Tramps and Thieves. That was great fun. I wish it was longer, like I have wished about all the dance sequences from all the seasons. I wonder, will we get a final dance sequence at the end of episode 6, since they've been so big and so loved by the fans? What do you think, Chris?
I hope so. I really do hope so. I hope that there's something there. Dancing to a fade to black would be lovely.
Would be cool, wouldn't it? Would be cool. Maybe we'll close out with something like Bruce Springsteen's Born to Run, as they all run in separate directions. As the final impending apocalypse kills everybody else. There you go.
The cleanse cleanses them.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's our thoughts.
Yeah, that's our thoughts. Let's get a quick pop in and check in with our Academy alumni with some messages from the future. We got a message in on Facebook from Dr. Bob Phillips, who says, "High points of this episode were the reverse Clockwork Orange machine, line dancing PhDs, and the return of Klaus. I think he's about to do a Captain Jack and be killed for money. I'm looking forward to seeing how Lila and Five unpick the subway problem. Will there be a nod to the trolley bus conundrum, and why a giant squid can make the world clean again?" I love how you write down the episodes, Dr. Bob. That's really funny. So Captain Jack from Doctor Who couldn't die at all. I don't think he got killed for money, though, at least not very often. In the show itself. But Klaus, yeah, I wonder if that's it. Will he be someone that people can vent their rage on? Is that how he's going to be used by the Mothers of Agony?
Could be. Like, it's going to be interesting. I always remember Captain Jack from the short-lived, long wish for more of Torchwood.
Yeah.
Where it was the adult Doctor Who, where they got into some very serious dark versions, and I was like, "Oh, this is good. This is really good." It came and went, but there should have been more.
It did, yeah. Quite literally, that would have been maybe one of the jokes that was written into Torchwood in the early couple of seasons, just to make it a bit more adult.
Definitely.
Yeah. It was a good show. Overall, it did like it. Captain Jack was a great character. Regularly appeared across Doctor Who for all of the seasons. So great to think about that. That could be what Klaus is doing. But I'm not sure if they'll go for killed for money. I think they might go somewhere else with Klaus, because that would be just awful if you just had Robert Sheen having his head cut off in one episode, and then maybe, getting stabbed through the heart in the next episode, and then he just keeps coming back if that's the way they're going to go. But yes, thanks so much, Dr. Bob, for your thoughts.
Yep, thanks, Dr. Bob. Who knows? They might even just have him levitate into weird places that no other people can get to. Yeah,
maybe that's it. Yeah. That's it. Quinn saw him levitating. Yeah, that's his, that's one of the new powers, I guess. Klaus has.
Thanks, Dr. Bob. And thank you so much to everyone else for your feedback. Don't forget, head on over to facebook.com/groups/TV Podcast Industry and leave us your feedback there, or send us your feedback to feedback@tvpodcastindustries.com. And you still have multiple episodes where we can hear it. So get it in now, and we'll read it out on the show and discuss it. But with all that said and done, thank you so much for joining us for episode 3 of season 4 of the Umbrella Academy. We will be back with episode 4 of season 4, The Cleanse. This is it.
It's finally going to be revealed, or will it just happen?
I was going to say,
will
is
the
this
cleanse happen in the next episode?
Surprise! Yeah. The next episode 5 and 6 is just black dark screen. That's it.
Or episode 4, the cleanse happens, and episode 5 and 6 is everybody works out how to live their real lives in the main timeline.
Yeah, that could be it.
How about that?
Who knows?
Because I do wonder, with all the apocalypses that have gone on throughout the last 3 seasons of the Umbrella Academy, if they get brought back to one central timeline, will it just end 5 minutes later with one of the 3 apocalypses that have happened so far? Where do you go back to on the main timeline? Maybe the Thibodeaus, the Jean and Jean, maybe they're making the wrong decision here to go back to a timeline where maybe their lives ended 3 minutes later. It might not be the greatest of plans, but we'll find out, I guess, in the next episode of the Umbrella Academy.
Oh, I know 100%. You know what the ending's going to be now. Now you said that. They get back, everyone's happy, and then they turn around and literally someone comes in and goes, the apocalypse is coming in 24 hours. And it's just their life is forever apocalypses in 3 days.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe. We know it's the last season, Chris, so they can't end on a cliffhanger.
Can't end
maybe it'll just
happy ever after. It's not how this works.
Or maybe somebody will run in and go, you can't dance here. This is a town like out of Footloose. Dancing's been banned. But I guess we'll find that out in a couple more episodes' time. Thanks so much for joining us for our discussion about the 3rd episode of the final season of Umbrella Academy. We'll be back next time. Until then, keep watching, keep listening, keep dancing. Bye.
Bye. You can dance if you want to. You can leave your friends behind. And if you don't dance, you do. Hey!
Oh, you were so close to knowing all the lyrics. I was quite impressed.
I probably do some of it.
Bye.